HEP, and my colleague with me, Katie, did you just want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Katie Rayner and I am Engagement Manager for HEPC and work with Kelly.
Lovely, thank you. So just go through a bit about what the session aims are today in terms of what we're going to cover. So we're going to cover the variety of routes available into higher education. We're going to explain the application process and that support that is available, and then build knowledge and confidence to help guide your young person on their next steps. So a bit about who HEP is. So we are the Higher Education Progression Partnership, and we are a jointly funded programme with Sheffield Hallam University and the University of Sheffield. And we aim to go out to schools in the region. So that's Sheffield, Doncaster, Rotherham and Barnsley. And we speak to students around the region out in those schools. We also do work with underrepresented students. So we work with care experienced students, young carers and disabled students as well. So we're about providing impartial information to help make the young people make informed choices about their future. So a bit about the start of this session is sort of looking at that route into higher education. So here we are at the first stage, which is secondary school. This is where your young person will sit their GCSEs. So they'll be studying them around year 10 and year 11. And for some schools, they will have to sit, obviously, those compulsory subjects. So there's the English, maths and science. And then they will get some chosen subjects as well. But obviously, depending on the school, will be what subjects they can choose. After their GCSEs, they will need to decide what they do next. So this is when we go on to this next stage, so that post-16 stage. So this is 16 plus, and where the young person can then decide on whether they want to go down the route of A-levels, vocational courses such as BTECs or T-levels, or an apprenticeship. These can be completed in quite a lot of different institutions. Okay, so we've got the sixth form. There are two options for sixth form, and you study for 2 years there, and it is located within a secondary school, okay, a sixth form. You will need to look at the entrance requirements here, as a lot of sixth forms will have sort of a grade that they need the young person to have to be able to go to that sixth form. There are sixth form colleges as well, which are standalone institutions, and they often offer a wider range of subjects and qualifications. So within a sixth form, you can study A-levels and vocational, but you will need to check what subjects that institution does study. Alternatively, you can go to a post-16, so at a further education college. Traditionally, a further education college offers vocational courses, but there is a wide range of courses available for young people. Then there is obviously the apprenticeship route that you can go. This is where the young person will combine on-the-job training with off-the-job. And obviously there's various career paths, but again, it would need to be checked within the institutions what is on offer. At 18 plus, this is when you can the option to study at a higher education institution. So this can be at a college, it can be at a university, but it also can be at distance learning. So you might have heard of the Open University. That's an option. Or their next level could be an apprenticeship and have, again, that on-the-job training with off-the-job training. Okay. For higher education, you would need to go through the process of UCAS for your next stage. So if you're at school or college and you want to go on to higher education, but if you want to study for an apprenticeship route to HE, you will need to find employment to be able to get into a course for higher education. So there's lots of different options for these young people to take. So this is just sort of a whistle-stop tour, if you like, of what options there are available. And as I say, we have recorded this so that you are able to access all this information again. And I'm going to pass you over to my colleague, Katie, now.
Hello, so I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about like the qualifications and options and choices that your young person would need to be thinking about for their options after year 11 and then for higher education. So there are different options available. So here's a few that I'm going to give you a little bit of information about. Feel free to just click through the list, Kelly, that's fine. So we've got A-levels. So these are probably ones that you are most familiar with. They are the academic way of studying, and most learners choose 3 subjects at A-level across a 2-year course. And some students do choose to take 4 A-levels, but higher education institutions will often ask for 3. They can be taken as standalone qualifications or combined with other qualifications, although you need to always check, as some providers will offer more choice of subjects and combinations than others. So most providers will offer the main subjects, but there is, if you want something that's not, you know, the normal subject that you have at GCSE, then you need to have a look at each institution provider and what they provide. For A-level study, to meet the demands of an A-level, most providers ask for GCSE at grade 6 or above in the subject. So it's important, if you're interested, if your young person's interested in a particular subject, that they look at the requirements to get onto that subject as well. We've got vocational courses. So these are different from the academic study of A-level in that they're usually a pathway to a specific work area. So unlike A-level study, they kind of offer a combination of coursework and exam assessment, which is different to A-levels, and they are popular as a standalone qualification path to both university and the world of work. So they're just different. They're not necessarily better or worse than A-levels, and they can also be combined with other types of qualifications, but again, that all depends on the institution and what they offer. We've got BTECs as an option. So this is a type of vocational course, and it's practical based. It's a practical based vocational qualification, and it can be offered at both colleges and sixth forms. Again, you need to check the specific provider to make sure they've got the best option for you, and they provide the opportunity to gain more of a practical hands-on experience in a vocational work area. And they are an alternative to like the more theory focused classroom based ways of learning of A-levels. So they suit a lot of students a lot better than what an A-level requires of them. So BTECs are a popular route into work, but they're also becoming a more popular path to university as an alternative to A-levels. And then we've got T-levels, which you might not have heard of, but these are really quite different. So they are a 2-year course, broadly equivalent in the size of 3 A-levels. So they're developed in collaboration with employers and education providers, and they prepare students for entry into skilled employment, an apprenticeship or related technical study through further or higher education. They offer students practical and knowledge-based learning at a school or college and on-the-job experience through an industry placement of at least 315 hours. So T-levels are as rigorous as A-level study, with 80% spent in training and 20% in a work placement, and they require 1,800 hours over 2 years. So this is a lot more than current post-16 study at college or sixth form, which are usually approximately 600 hours. It is worth noting that with that 600 hours, and then there's a lot of work that students do independently with the A-level study as well. So for T-levels, a level 2 in maths and English are not necessarily needed to start a T-level. However, most providers are asking for maths and English at level 2 as a minimum entry requirement, so GCSE. So it is, again, it's always, if you're interested in the course, check the requirements of the provider. And quite often, if students do not have level 2 maths and English, they can enrol on a level 2 T-level transition programme. So it's not a qualification in its own right, but to enable them to do a T-level if that's what they are passionate about and want to do. If you don't get that level 2 in maths and English, that doesn't mean T-levels are out of the question. There is another route and to do a transition into that. The next one, so in terms of decision making, there's lots of things to consider. So we've got some ideas on the slide here and how to choose subjects and how to choose institutions and what is important to look out for. So rather than feeling pressured to take certain subjects, it's better that learners enjoy the subject and have an interest in it before making the decision about continuing to study it beyond post-16 level. A-level study, any of the further education, the post-16 options are quite intense if that's particular subject area. So it really, really does help the students succeed if they have an interest in it. Being good at the subject is also important, particularly if studying it at A-level, as most providers expect students to have gained at least a GCSE grade 6 or above in the subject that they are going to take at A-level. And that is not to exclude anybody, it's because the demands of an A-level mean that to be able to keep up and to get a grade in that subject, it's unlikely if you got less than a grade 6 at GCSE. Some cases, possibly. We know lots of different strange things happen when people are taking the GCSEs, so it's not a hard and fast rule, but most of the time, to keep up with the demands of an A-level, that's what they'll need. And students should also research whether any particular subjects or qualifications are needed to gain entry for a particular higher level course for study or for a career they have in mind. Like, it can be quite hard at 16 to be thinking ahead. But if you know that your learner has big ambitions to do something quite specific as a career, they have to be thinking about the A-levels and BTEC or T-levels choices that they make. This could be for things like medicine, healthcare, science subjects, engineering. They have to think about that a lot earlier in terms of their subject choices. And then in terms of the institutions, it's best to offer the subject and qualification they want to study, the support the young persons need, something that they can commute to, and that somewhere where they feel comfortable to study at. And you can maybe attend an open day there to speak to current staff and students and really get the feel of it. So there's just some ideas of the kinds of prompts to speak to with learners about choosing subjects and institutions post-16. For higher education, so this is after the qualifications that I talked about 2 slides ago. There's things that, so up until the September of the year, you want to start the study in higher education. There's different things that you need to do. So if to study for a degree, you need to think about attending open days of institutions and your UCAS application. And it's important to note that, again, for those certain career choices or course choices like medicine, veterinary, Oxford and Cambridge, that has an earlier deadline for their application. So if there's anything for any course that your young person wants to do, get them to check when the deadline is. For all of the courses and institutions, the application process for equal consideration is mid-January. So the people that submit it in November, December, January, they all get equally considered. It's not a first come, first served basis, and that's mid-January. To study an apprenticeship, you need to find a job that offers apprenticeships, and the employer will liaise with their choice of institution. And there's no deadline, as institutions offer these at varying points in the calendar year. So again, it's quite a specific process, and to think about apprenticeships, and it can be quite competitive, but shouldn't put people off if that's something that they're interested in. It's a fantastic route with higher education. Next slide. And here are, so you're going to have these slides sent out to you. So this is just some links and some ideas that you can look into any more detail on what I've spoken to you about today. And there are lots of resources out of there, so it can be quite overwhelming, but we've put some here for you to be able to access quite easily for the certain things you might want more information about. But you can use this careers advisor in school. I think in lots of schools they're underused, especially by students. And yeah, get your learner, if they've got questions, to go and speak to their careers advisor. And then here's some websites and downloadable resources that you can access about careers, the different routes, UCAS. Anything that needs a UCAS application, they have so many resources on there. And then if you've got want to ask us any questions, we've got the HEP email address on there as well. So thank you for listening. And Kelly, do you want to introduce?
So we'll hand over. Thank you, Katie. So we'll hand over now to Tanwir, who is one of our parent and care ambassadors, and she's going to talk through her experience of those routes with her young people. Thanks, Tanwir.
Hi everyone. Yeah, I'm Tan. I've actually been asked to talk a little bit about my own experience as a parent supporting my children into higher education, because like many of you here, I've been through the ups and downs of helping young adults find their path after school. So I've got 3 children I can talk about going through this route. My eldest son went through the traditional high school sixth form and then on to university. He went into and completed a law degree. At first, he wanted to become a police officer growing up, but after completing his degree and actually working in some placements at a solicitor's office, he decided that wasn't quite for him. So today he's working for a security firm, fire security, so the fire safety procedures and regulations in companies. It's his job to make sure that they are following and meet all the regulatory requirements. And it's something that sort of connects back to his interest in law. He seems to be enjoying it, so I'm happy for him, over the moon that that's worked out for him. My second eldest, he took a different route. He actually went from high school to a college, a separate college, not attached to the school, not part of the school, and he focused on maths A level and embarked upon a maths degree. But during his studies, he discovered that his passion really was in IT. He found a placement for this particular qualification, and now he's thriving in the IT sector, providing technical support for companies like HS2. His ADHD did actually really impact him whilst he was away at university. So he embarked upon an apprenticeship route, which has really worked better for him, and it's given him structure and hands-on experience, which I think he needed to shine. So that's sort of his experience. Now, I also have a youngest daughter who's now actually in year 11 as we speak. She's exploring her options. She was originally interested in, is still doing graphic design as a GCSE, but she's not wanting to pursue that any longer as a career. She wants to now look at youth work. I'm not sure why. She's just come to me and said, Mum, I just want to do youth work. So she's looking at both A levels and BTECs and vocational hands-on experience. And she's becoming more independent by the day. I've really watched her grow this year. Today she's actually at a careers event, and she's organised her own transport, gone with a friend. She's really determined to do things for herself, her own way, and she asks help. She really does ask for help when she really needs it. Yeah, it's a bit difficult as a parent. I've learned that supporting young people through these transitions isn't just about guiding them, it's about stepping back, trusting them to make their own choices and being there when they ask for support. It hasn't always been easy for me to let go. Trust me, it's been quite a journey, but it's been wonderful to watch each of my children find their own way, even when their journeys have taken unexpected turns, and they have. So to all the parents here, I think I really just want to say that I completely understand how it feels. Every child's path is unique, I feel, and sometimes my journey, I feel the best thing to do and we can do is to give them the space to explore and grow and discover what truly fits them. I think I'll end on that, Kelly. That's
Lovely. Thank you, Tanwir. And it's like you say, I think it's every young person will have a different route potentially, because we are all different, aren't we, in terms of what we like, how we like to study and things like that. So thank you so much for that. So that is pretty much the end of the session per se. We have now got time for questions, so please do put them in the chat. What we're also going to do is bring up a poll. Obviously, these sessions are literally bite-sized sessions, half an hour snippets, but if you want any further information, please just drop us an email. We will always come back to you and provide any information that we can, and we've got lots of different contacts we can speak to. But if you can now fill out these 2 questions, there is 2 that's going to come up, so you might want to see them in the chat. But while we're doing that, we will look and see if there's any questions that you've got for either ourselves, so me or Katie, but also for Tanwe, who's obviously going through or has been through lots of different situations with her young people, in anything that you think you would like to know. So I just look and see if there's any questions. I will now put up our contact details, and to sort of reiterate that on one of the slides we had our HEP Hub. That is a resource that you can download, lots of different resources that will help you to navigate with your young person, and for yourself. There is also mature learners information on there about going back to study. We have lots of resources for young carers, care experience, disabled students as well. But then there is lots of other information on there from our partners that you can access. So please do take a look at that HEP Hub. And so we've got a question here, Tan. This is one's for you, Tan. How did your son find the apprenticeship?
So how did he find it, as in located it, or how did he find it, as in the emotion? I can answer
Try
both.
do both, because both of them would be very helpful.
Right, okay. So emotionally, he and sort of logistically, he's loved it. He's actually still undertaking it. He completes it, I think, next year. He is in his 2nd year. He's loving it. He's grown within it. He's had a huge amount of support, and especially regarding his ADHD, they've actually sat him down and created a whole support package for him. There's a new sort of initiative which I wasn't aware of for young learners, and they create a whole sort of personal profile. It's like a learning plan, I think, like schools, and it's anything he needs help with, if he's struggling, what he's allowed to do, who he can go to for support. So for him, the apprenticeship is really working really well. How he found it, he researched himself. He went through various organizations, and because of his university, he was at Bath University, they also supported him with next steps from what he was in. So yeah, I think it was a lot of it was down to his own hard work.
Lovely, thank you. So I think Katie's answered that question. Yes, for these slides and the recording, they will be sent out after the event. It will be sometime next week, okay?
So it's the qualifications that will, and the reason why they do it with points is so it can kind of standardize. It's different types of qualifications, but I think it's really important to know that not all universities will accept points and accept certain qualifications. So I think someone kind of talked about my daughter studying BTEC in law, business studies and psychology, a ways for her to progress to Sheffield University to study law. If you're looking at, you have to look at the different institutions about what they would accept. So for the University of Sheffield, for example, for their law courses, they would accept A-levels. So you would have to find an institution that would accept BTECs. And then if there's a certain institution that they really want to go to and they're really interested in a certain area, it's worth getting in touch with them. They'll be super helpful, and they'll just say, this is what they've done so far. What would they, is it possible for them to come to this institution to study this course? But I think it's important to know, just because if you've got a certain university in mind and your qualifications don't match that university, have a look at the others that do, because there's so many fantastic providers out there that have amazing courses that you might not even know about if the qualifications don't add to it. But UCAS points, your qualification is assigned a certain amount of points, so that comes from the qualifications that you take after GCSE.
Yes. Kelly, can I try answering the university versus apprenticeship one for somebody in the chat? Is that okay?
Yeah, well, I was going to do the one before that, because the one
Oh,
before that is
sorry.
that's all right. Is the support offered by the, so Tam, with your your son, that is the support offered by the education provider or the employer for his you mentioned ADHD, didn't you?
Right. So the ADHD is being monitored via the medical, so his GP. But the support package is solely from the employer, his apprenticeship. They are managing his workplace. Sorry, not even the apprenticeship. The apprenticeship is separate. Where he's working, the placement, the place he's working at, that employer has taken it on board to create the support package for him. So it's the actual work placement.
But I
They
will
can,
add in there that
yeah.
the education provider will also support that. So
Oh,
if you're on
yes.
if
Yes.
you're on, you need any additional support within while you're studying. For instance, I don't know, you might need someone note taking or anything, whatever you
Yeah.
need, you would
Anything.
just
Yeah.
make sure that you inform the disability team
Hmm.
at the institution, and they would support them there. But also, like
Yeah.
you said,
Definitely.
the employer does as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of new initiatives. Even my brother, he had some support at work, and I wasn't aware of this, but it seems to be a general consensus that employment has a lot of onus to support
Yeah.
their employees. So it's great, you know.
Yeah,
My son's
definitely.
thriving from it. University versus apprenticeship, then. It depends on the end goal. What is it that the young learner is wanting to do? Because if you have a degree and you have a pathway, that might be ideal. But ideally, if you are an apprenticeship like my son, they've already had a meeting, and it looks like they will be keeping my son once he's completed his apprenticeship, so he won't have to worry about finding work. He's already at work and he will just continue, but he will no longer be an apprentice. He will then be an employee for the company. So it depends on the end goal. I don't think there is a hard and fast rule, Kelly. What do you think?
No, definitely not. It depends on the young person or whoever it is. So there's no right or wrong answer. There's not one is better than the other. It's entirely up to that young person. Some students genuinely want to go and get work experience while doing their degree. So for some people, that's not quite right. It's a lot of hard work doing an apprenticeship, because you are doing a full-time job and then studying as well. So there's neither are better than the other. They are just different, and it's how you want to work and how you want to get that qualification. And like Tan said, it depends. Maybe you're in a job that you want to just get more qualifications in, so you do an apprenticeship through that route. But there is no better one. Is the degree provided through apprenticeship will be from a recognised? Yes. So Hallam do them. So for instance, I've just done a degree apprenticeship and I've done it through Hallam. So I've work here for an organisation, and I have done a degree. So it is by a recognised institution. Is that the last question? I think there's no others in the Q&A section. Oh, wait a minute, I've got another one in here. Which is the best site to find out about uni fees, bursaries, loans, and accommodation costs? Probably the government website would probably be, well, but it's different, to be fair. So bursaries will be the individual institution. Okay, so every institution will offer their own bursaries. It just depends what their different situations those institutions are in as to what they can offer for certain criteria, for certain cohorts. For fees and loans, I would say go to the government website. They would be able to tell you more about that. We do have a student finance session that's coming up in February that would talk about student finance. So that's your fees and your loans. An accommodation cost would be I would go to the individual institution that you are looking to study at. They would have lots of different accommodation offers in terms of where their buildings are, what weekly rate they charge, and different accommodation will be different. So you can also do university accommodation, but you can do private accommodation. So I would recommend that you look at the individual institution, because obviously accommodation costs will vary depending on where you are in the country. Think we might be, oh, where are we? Have we got any more? I think that's it. So thank you so much for joining us this tea time. If you do have any further questions, please do drop us an email or give us a call and we'll be able to try and help you. Okay, but as I said, these slides will be sent out along with the recording so you have them to hand. Thank you for joining us.